Hello everyone. I think I am on now and we can start this wonderful session. So welcome. And I really warmly welcome you here from Berlin for this event about New York meet Berlin, where AI and business converge. And this is all about enhancing the cooperation and artificial intelligence between New York City and Berlin. I would love to start by introducing you who has brought this panel all together. It's a partner collaboration between, and I think we have a slide where we can see all the partners set. This is wonderful. No, actually, that was the one before. I was moving too fast. I have no AI behind me. It's just me and human. But the panel is brought to you in collaboration with the Berlin Business Office. And we are joined by Managing Director Christina Garcia, Berlin Partner, represented by Franziska Erhardt, Area Manager of the USA. MediaNet, Berlin Brandenburg, we welcome Andrea Peters, the chairwoman of the executive board and also representing the initiative of Berlin Digital. The New York City Economic Development Corporation, Karen Bhatia, Senior Vice President Tech at the NYCEDC, is here today. And Executive Director at New York Tech Alliance, Andy Saldana, and Doug Minette is also here with us today. So this is wonderful, but the good news is you will be able to speak to them directly in the middle section after the panel. Some of them are already on the table in the lounge, and you can join their table, which is absolutely great. Anyway, I was not polite enough. I am AC Coppens. To present myself, I will be your host tonight. I'm founder of the Catalyst. We are a boutique consultancy boosting the development of innovative and creative players in digital tech, media, science, film, music, design, arts, etc. And this very often and more often implies AI. In addition to strategizing and internationalizing companies, we also curate and program conferences and events in these fields and very often moderate them, like today, actually tonight, depending on where you are. We are between spaces and time zones, reality and virtuality, but we are all here and now. Good. So most important before we start, a couple of housekeeping notes. This session will be recorded, but you as attendee are not to be seen. And there will be no recording on the table's conversations. You can set your camera on at your table for the networking to make this experience more human. That would be great, like in real life. Use the reaction buttons if you love something. They are all between the poll and between the share slides. You will see them. So put some hearts or applause or whatever that is. Make this as possible lively. I try to do my best, but help me. If you have a question, write it please in the questions section. Here in the crowd, Anna is with you from my team, and she will have an eye also on the chat. But if you want to ask a question, put in the question section, and your question might be picked later on during the panel, depending on the relevance and vote. So vote and join questions, and well, bring your own. At the end of the talk, we will be in this meeting room at different tables to mingle, and we set names on the institutions, associations, and companies to help you get where you want to interact best. It will stay open for a short half an hour for participants to network, chat privately on each table, ask further questions, well, like in real life. The tables have up to 8 seats, I believe, but you will be able to leave and join different tables, like IRL. Good. Now, let me guide you through the program. This is the next slide, indeed. The session will last approximately an hour. We will start by 2 presentations, followed by a panel with a Q&As at the end. Please put your question in the question section so that we can address them in the last part. At the end, as said, we will proceed towards the mingling part. So 2 presentations at 5 minutes each to recontextualize, panel with the 3 speakers, 1 from New York and 2 from Berlin, and then Q&As approximately 10 minutes, and then the tables networking. So now, let us start to the core of the topic. As is often the case with technology, some locations have taken up positions at the forefront of AI research and development. The race is heated as AI involves a broad spectrum of industrial applications, strategic national interests, and growing capital investment. The US and China are leading in AI development, with the US keeping the position of AI market leader in terms of funding, number of companies, global reach. However, if considered as a unified entity, Europe has significant innovation mass through its AI startups, 22% global share, I think, a strong willingness to develop AI, as illustrated by the EU Commission's innovation policy, and highly reputable academic institutions. So the EU has more AI researchers than its peer and produces the most research, and the European market can offer the talent to compete with the United States. But there is a disconnection between the amount of AI talent in the EU and the commercial AI adoption and funding. Specifically in Germany, the focus should be on developing policies that help transfer research successes into business applications, encourage the development of firms that can transform, compete in a global market. So this event is to explore how to give a boost for both AI-related ecosystems by exploring how to establish a bridge between the obvious complementary assets of both New York and Berlin cities and regions. We will start with two presentations with two experts knowing much more than I do, actually. And it will be Karen Bhatia, who I was already introducing, Senior Vice President in Technology for New York City Economic Development Corporation, NYCEDC, followed by Charlotte Seiler. And I will start with you, Karen. Karen, in her role of lead creative and applied tech at the NYCEDC Center for Urban Innovation, has strategized and implemented programs for inclusive economic development in NYC, particularly in emerging technology and through entrepreneurship. She led the launch of NYC's VR/AR Lab, which is a fantastic initiative, I must say, the NYC's blockchain strategy and current AI data strategy. Karen is also an attorney, entrepreneur, and startup advisor. I would say, Karen, the stage is yours now.
Thank you, AC, and good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Thank you for attending this, and thank you also for having me here today. So I wanted to start off by briefly telling you a little bit about the New York City Economic Development Corporation, so you have some context about the work that we do. And we're considered the New York City economic engine. We're responsible for economic development from the perspective of helping businesses, particularly startups, that are launching as well as scaling. We work on innovative projects, and we also want to figure out ways in which we can help incumbent industries that New York City is known for adopt technology. In that capacity, as AC had mentioned, we're involved in a variety of initiatives, the VR/AR Lab, blockchain, AI, and some of the projects that you might have already heard about was the launch of Cornell Tech. That was one of our projects. So we look at ways in which we could spur innovation in technology in New York City, whether it's by supporting talent development, whether it's supporting space, or any other kinds of challenges that startups have in New York City. We try to address those. So now I'm going to do a deeper dive into artificial intelligence in New York City. As AC had mentioned, over the course of the past year and a half, New York City has been working on our strategy around artificial intelligence and ensuring that New York City is a home to ethical and responsible development of artificial intelligence opportunities for everybody, both in New York, in the United States, as well as around the globe. And one of the biggest benefits and advantages that we have is exactly what was earlier mentioned, was commercialization of AI. We're going to move on to the next slide, please. In the United States itself, so this is in slide number 2, last year there was an executive order that announced the United States AI initiative. And it let the various departments and agencies in the federal government come up with their own plan and their own budget involved in making sure that artificial intelligence focused on a few different areas. One was, it was a robust regulatory environment, that we focused on research and development, that there was an emphasis on workforce, as well as innovation and making sure that New York, and particularly the United States as a whole, but a variety of our states and cities, were actually a place in which there was a robust environment where international companies could come, such as those from Berlin and the greater German area. Next slide, please. You'll see that in New York City, as mentioned earlier, the United States as well as China are pretty robust when it comes to funding in artificial intelligence. New York City, even though it's just one municipality, if you see it in the context of funding for AI companies, particularly venture-backed funding, New York had over $2.3 billion invested in New York City-based AI companies and data companies in 2019 alone. So as you can see, this is pretty significant when we look at entire countries as a whole. And as mentioned above here, the 5-year growth in AI funding for 5 years terminating in 2018 was higher in New York City compared to various municipalities, the United States, and even globally. And one of the benefits, as mentioned earlier, is New York City has a particular competitive advantage because we have such robust industries that are based here. Next slide, please. Some of these industries, as you could see, and these are industries that across the board have indicated that they're going to be investing in artificial intelligence, include financial services, insurance, healthcare, manufacturing, technology, as well as retail. And all of these industries are pretty strong in New York. And these across the board, not only in New York City, but across the board in the United States, are ones that are focusing a significant amount of investment in artificial intelligence. Next slide, please. As you'll see here, the industries that New York City is known for, finance, business services, education, health, and real estate, are significant. I also wanted to make a point in the second chart that you'll see on your right is that if you're in the creative and media businesses, those are also incredibly significant in New York. We hold a significant portion of jobs across the United States that are based in these creative sectors. Another area that we need to focus on is that New York City is such an interesting space in and of itself with such tremendous density and diversity of people. And New York City, and one of the roles that we have as part of the New York City Economic Development Corporation, is using the city as a living lab for purposes of clean tech, energy, mobility, urban tech as well. So it's an area in which we prioritize opportunities to pilot different types of technologies within the city itself. So aside from our robust industries and our institutions, the city itself poses a unique opportunity for startups to come here. Next slide, please. Some of the industries that have been highlighted in recent reports, such as Startup Genome, focus on some of the areas that we had mentioned, such as finance, but other areas include advanced manufacturing and robotics, as well as cybersecurity, as well as health and life sciences. And I just wanted to briefly contextualize this in light of all that's been happening with the pandemic and COVID-19. New York City has doubled down its efforts on healthcare as well as life sciences, and there are renewed efforts around ensuring that New York City is a hotbed of research when it comes to thinking about not only the pandemic, but also future opportunities for healthcare and life science oriented projects. And so that's another area that's going to be particularly even more robust than it is right now. Next slide. The jobs in New York City when it comes to AI, we have the highest concentration in artificial intelligence and machine learning jobs in the entire United States. And again, that's a testament to the variety of industries that we have here, all of them utilizing artificial intelligence. So there's a tremendous commercial opportunity in New York. Next slide. And when it comes to startups itself, New York City, as you could see in the context here, as a municipality, we're comparing it against other countries. There's a significant number of startups that are focused on artificial intelligence and data in the United States, and we're only second to the Bay Area for these number of startups. Next slide, please. Some of the unicorns that you might be familiar with that are headquartered in New York include some that are listed here above. And as you can see, a number of them are in areas that focuses on businesses as well as enterprise, software, etc. So UiPath, data miner amongst some of the 5 top unicorns in terms of valuation. Next slide, please. Despite this, we do have a number of other significant startups that are based in a number of subsectors that you might be involved with, including mobility, healthcare, finance, media, and the other sectors that I had mentioned. These are some of the top ones that are based in New York City. Finally, the next area in regards to AI growing in New York City is our robust institutions. Now, I want to contextualize this. As you see, some of the ones that we have here are Columbia University, the Data Science Institute, Cornell Tech, NYU's Center for Urban Science and Progress. Those are 3 projects that the New York City Economic Development Corporation actually helped seed. But there are a variety of institutions that you see here, including the New York and their Machine Learning Symposium, CUNY's Graduate Center, as well as IBM Watson, that are amongst a number of different institutions that are focused on artificial intelligence in New York. Now, I'm going to just rush through the next couple of slides because I'm going a little bit over. One of the areas that I did want to mention is that our strategy in New York City is actually focused on ensuring that we're leveraging all of the different institutions that we have, startups, funding, all of the critical components of what makes a robust tech environment, particularly artificial intelligence environment, but ensuring that the development of artificial intelligence in New York is done responsibly. And we have 4 different pillars of what that's going to be focused on. The first one is ensuring that we establish an applied research lab here, which focuses on ethical best practices, focused on specific pilots of AI development, focusing on research and development around data collaboratives and ways in which we could help facilitate data sharing, particularly for companies that are starting and scaling in New York. The third is focusing on innovation, supporting AI for good companies, such as those in urban tech, financial inclusion, climate, etc. And finally, thinking about ways in which we could support workforce development and ensuring that ethics is integrated into higher education programs for data science as well as computer science. This is what we were going to be focusing on when it came to a New York City Center for Responsible AI. And lastly, you'll see here that the New York City Economic Development Corporation has experience building robust innovation centers, such as our Urban Future Lab, our lab, which is our VR AR lab that was mentioned earlier, as well as New Lab, focused on urban tech across the board. We focus on ways in which we could support companies like yours come to New York and develop in New York, and companies that are already in New York as well get the resources that they need. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. I mean, before I let you go, I mean, please, I just have one question for you. When will the Center for Responsible AI be open?
That's a great question. So a lot of the work that EDC has been focusing on over the course of the past several months has actually been very much focused on the pandemic itself. And so a lot of the work that we were doing specifically around this was put on pause while the city was focused on those emergency relief efforts and now reopening the economy. So what we're trying to do is that in a smaller scale, we're trying to work with some of the partners that are already based here in New York to figure out ways in which to the extent we could continue movement on that. And so the larger project is put on pause while the city evaluates its financial situation. And so we're trying to work on smaller aspects of it in the meanwhile.
Okay, I will certainly be in touch to know more about this so that maybe we can bring the trade mission to the center. And a super very nice question, Dataiku, they come from France, right?
I'm sorry?
Dataiku, the one of the 5 unicorns you have, weren't they based in France before?
I don't know. We have to go back and check.
Okay, I think so, because we wanted to visit them in Paris by the last admission in Paris. Anyway, Karen, it was fantastic. Thank you very much. It gives a clear overview of what's happening in New York. So we're going to move to Berlin now, going back and forth all the time tonight. I call on stage this time Charlotte Seiler, Project Manager Innovation AI at Berlin Partner for Business and Technology. She's with us today to have a look at the situation in Berlin. She connects companies, startups, and researchers in the field of AI innovation in Berlin. Her background lies in design thinking and digital innovation, And Berlin Partner is a little bit like the corresponding entity to the NYCEDC. It is the Economic Development Corporation of the city of Berlin. They support companies to launch, innovate, expand their economic future in Berlin. And they collaborate with the Senate and over 280 companies to promote the city. Charlotte, this is your time now for your presentation, and you have 5 minutes, well, maybe 1 or 2 more.
Great. Thank you so much, AC, for that introduction. And thank you, Karen, for the great overview. It was super interesting to learn about the New York ecosystem. Welcome, everyone. It's already evening over here. I'll keep it short, just to give you a brief overview of the ecosystem, the AI ecosystem in Berlin. And I will also be available for networking later, so happy to meet you there. Next slide, please. So the Berlin ecosystem is very diverse. It's made up of a lot of different stakeholders. So Berlin is not just one center, but it's been two cities actually before, the East and the West, and they're still growing together. So it's always a very diverse landscape. We have many different research institutes and universities that are conducting AI research, that are also conducting many projects towards AI implementation into bringing technology to companies. Next slide, please. The company ecosystem in Berlin is also very manifold. We have many big companies that have some of their research and AI labs in Berlin. So, for example, Amazon, you all know, but also some German companies that are in the mobility sector, like Huyghues-Despointes, really pushing AI development forward. And many big startups that are just kind of growing into scale-ups as well, that we're very proud of, like Mirantex. We also have Rasmus here tonight talking about it, and Bright AI or Ada Health. So there's so much to learn in Berlin, also from younger companies. In total, we have more than 220 AI companies currently in the region, so Berlin and Brandenburg. And nearly 30% of all German AI startups are in Berlin. So it's a very startup-driven ecosystem. And just to give you an idea what they're all working in, about a third of AI companies in Berlin are working in business intelligence and process management. And we have a big healthcare sector as well that's been growing also around the COVID-19 crisis. There's been lots of projects that are emerging in Berlin. And the mobility sector is growing as well. Many companies are investing in that field. Next slide, please. What we do in Berlin to foster this very diverse ecosystem and to also create a successful tech environment is build on a strategy around events and community building, but also to create workshops that are built up directly for companies, customized workshops to bring AI applications directly towards companies that are still not using that, for example. Then I'm also organizing the AI Monday, which is a very big meetup community. It's happening around 6 times a year and already grown into a sort of tradition around Berlin to bring the community together. And then there's also the AI Berlin website that you can all check out. It kind of gives you a good overview of AI stakeholders in Berlin, companies, and also news and events. You can all find it there. So my role is very much to support this community and to build up the ecosystem and to connect everyone to initiate innovation projects. Next slide, please, and also last one. Feel free to get in touch. I'm always happy to connect with anyone and to give you more information also about Berlin Partner. And if you're a company coming from the States and thinking about relocating to Berlin, I'm also here to give you all the information about that. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Charlotte. And for those who are interested in the chat, Francisca is saying that she is happy to send slides to those who are interested to have a narrow look on this. So this is wonderful. Check her email address in the chat right now. And now we will move on with our panel. And I'm very happy. I'm very sorry first that Anna cannot be with us for medical reasons. So I'm very sorry she's not with us. So we will have a panel with 3 guys on the panel, but it's not our fault. And actually, they're all fantastic experts, and we will make the most of it. So yes, let me introduce them to you guys, these guys. It is, first of all, in Berlin. Let's start with Berlin. Dr. Rasmus Rothe, founder of Merantix, Berlin, Germany. Merantix is the artificial intelligence venture studio, building the category leaders of tomorrow, they say. And Rasmus is an internationally recognized AI and computer vision expert, as well as a co-founder and CTO of Merantix, which promotes the transfer of AI research to economy application, helping build and scale machine learning companies. And Rasmus is also a founding and board member of the KI Bundesverband, which is something like the AI Federal Association in Germany, supporting the implementation and further development of the federal government AI strategy. And in 2019, he was listed on Forbes magazine 30 under 30, and Capital Magazine 40 under 40. I don't know, with 50, probably has a long career in front of him. So welcome, Rasmus. Then we also have Thomas Strottner, here in Berlin, head of business development of Brighter AI. Brighter AI was named Europe's hottest AI startup by Nvidia, and the reason why it is so hot is that it is all about generative AI for privacy protection. You guess. Thomas joined Brighter AI as one of the very first employees. In his role as a head of business development, he is responsible for product strategy, marketing, and sales. He is an active member also of the German AI Association and has gained previous experience in the automotive industry and IT consulting. Welcome, Thomas. Willkommen. We go on with Parag Shrestha, director of Fuse Classroom, Fuse Machines in New York City. Actually, he is not in New York City today. If I am right, he's in Nepal today, right? Are you? Kathmandu. Great. We are all around the globe. This is fantastic. Well, Fuse Machines is providing quality AI education to transform lives in these communities now and for the future. And Parag is an enterprise technology veteran, over 17 years of working globally with innovative and tech companies such as Salesforce, IBM, 360 Insights to solve real-world challenges. And currently, he is leading a world-class team to bring transformation in how we teach and learn, and by that help redefine and usher in a new paradigm in education with AI-assisted education platform, and this is Fuse Classroom. And then we will go on with the questions, and I don't know where to start with. This is wonderful. Well, Rasmus, maybe. We just got insights into Berlin, Germany, and New York City, US ecosystems with great key facts. And you work with world-leading research, transferring it to products that will change existing and create new industries. So you have a broad overview of what's happening here. So maybe tell us a little bit more about what are your most recent success cases?
Yeah, thanks for the kind introduction. So as you mentioned, we are building a machine learning first companies. So we incubate them, we help building the teams, but we also finance them, and we also decide kind of what topics in the end they work on. And I think we've been, like, one of our company has been in the medical imaging space, Vara, which is doing breast cancer recognition. We just started another company in the space of synthetic biology, so working on DNA sequencing data, trying to improve biomaterials. So I think in general, we are very super excited about healthcare, biology, pharma, and these kind of spaces. I think there's still a lot of potential because we start to collecting quite clean data, and I guess, yeah, now it's about time to actually build applications that can help humans.
Mm-hmm. Are you working a lot with the US?
So we have quite a few investors from the US behind Merantix and also our ventures. So I think that's from the fundraising side. I think that's one connection. And also some of our companies have customers in the US. So I think those are the two connections. And then the third one, I guess, is also just people who have worked or doing research in the US before and then decided to move to Berlin. And so talent, I guess, is the third connection with the US. So yeah, there's quite a lot of exchange and connections there.
Mm-hmm. And what are, maybe you can name a couple of institutions you work with, if not clients, but at least institutions or associations also based in the US?
Yeah, so I think one is some of the universities. There we collaborate with researchers. So quite a few from the Boston ecosystem, Princeton where I studied, but then also in the Valley with like Stanford, Berkeley, there are a few collaborations. So that's one thing, and then we have, I guess, some investors. We have the Kellogg Foundation, the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, so two of the 20 largest US foundations as investors behind our efforts. And so I think that has been like another strong way to collaborate. So yeah, I think it's both East and West Coast, and some also over the country. So yeah. Okay,
that's great. Okay, I will come back to you in a sec, that's for sure. I will turn now to fuse machines and Parag. And I wanted to know a little bit more because you are working also all around the globe, Parag, right? United States, Canada, Dominican Republic, Nepal, but not in Europe, and specifically not in Berlin. Why?
Well, we would love to. I mean, we have a couple of PhDs in our team that's scattered over Europe, but we don't have a presence there. We're just about to start a satellite office in UK, in London, actually, and we've hired
it's not Europe anymore.
Not anymore, yes. But yeah, no, we would love to grow our footprint across Europe, and maybe Rasmus can help us expand our footprint there as well. But definitely, we're looking to, and we're also starting. So our Fuse classroom is implemented in South Africa as well. So we're starting kind of looking at Africa and Europe and trying to grow our footprint there as well, and a lot of in Southeast Asia as well.
Well, one of the biggest challenges we have had in the last months was moving our lives online, and online education has been a challenge, but also a way towards a certain democratization of educational access, I guess. So for you, it's certainly a very good chance in this change because you specialize in education, right? So how to facilitate knowledge exchange? What can be done online? Do you think we can learn a lot online? Are there any limits there? I'm thinking especially because we plan this trade mission. Can we do a trade mission also online? Can we people learn from each other? How do you see this?
Yeah, definitely. So we do have three lines of business, all interrelated. Like we have a services line of business where we build solutions for companies, giving our talent. That we actually teach AI as well. We have our own micro degree because our CEO, founder, Dr. Samir Maske, is an AI professor in Columbia University in New York. We are headquartered in New York. And the third is we actually have our AI-enabled education platform, and that's the one that's really in focus right now, especially due to pandemic. And to answer your question, I think it's really exciting to see a paradigm shift in the world of education. Because of COVID, it's brought us all of these difficulties and problems that we have to solve for. Right? We're I don't think there's going to be the normal as we know. There is going to be a new normal, and that new normal, especially in the education space, is the hybrid, the blended modality of mixing, digitization, virtualization with the physical presence that we have. And we're particularly excited because, we're providing thought leadership in terms of, bringing AI into the education space, and what does AI really allow? Because digitization in the education space has been going on for the last decade or so, but really now the application of AI on top of that will allow us to make education student-centric versus instructor-centric that it has been all of this time, right? So we're going to move towards personalization. We're going to start understanding the needs and the weaknesses and the strengths of each individual student, and tailor the content, tailor the learning based on that. So that's really exciting, right? Because finally education can really be kind of tailored and catered to the young minds that we are trying to shape for the better future of tomorrow. And that promise is really exciting for us. And we already have 25,000 students across 4 countries. It's really exciting to see some of the feedback, because AI is answering, our chatbots are answering in forums. AI is giving recommendation engines. AI is giving them, statuses in terms of the courses, red, green, yellow. So all of this is really self-motivating for students, and again, a new paradigm shift in terms of how we view learning and teaching. So that's what we're after for now.
Yeah, that's super exciting, I must say. Also, I see also this opportunity. Let's go now to the third hot topic with imagery and data privacy. I think this is quite good. Thomas, you based in Berlin. For deep natural anonymization, Brighter AI was named this hottest AI startup said in Europe, and it has secured millions in funding, also from investors from the US. Can it be? No, not from the US. Okay, from investors, from European investors.
Yes.
Okay. Well, the product is used in future-oriented applications, such as the development of autonomous vehicle, of smart cities, but also serving companies in various sectors. You are a European company, but you look also beyond, right? So, looking from the perspective of Berlin, how does the New York ecosystem look like to you? And especially, what does it mean for you? Because you have a lot to do with privacy regulations, so very different needs, GDPR and etc. So, is the US market a future opportunity for you, or actually, they don't care, they can do whatever they want there? How does it look like?
Yeah. So in general, we also have lots of touch points already with the US. So if you ask me how the ecosystem is, so from a personal perspective, I think it's a very vibrant and diverse city. And one of the aspects for us is also talent. So I can actually say that we recently hired a graduate from New York for our tech team. So there's also great talent there. And because Berlin is such a great place to be, they also want to move to Berlin. So that's a good sign for us. And then the second thing that you mentioned, connected to data privacy. So that's something like many people also in Europe think that this is something that is very specific to Europe and to Germany, because we have the GDPR that is very famous and well known and was one of the first comprehensive privacy laws in the world. But actually, we already work with companies in the US. So we have a couple of large clients in the US already. One is a data labeling company, because in order to label data for AI training, image data is sent around the world, and their data privacy is very critical. By default, when being a global company, you also have to work with different countries where different laws exist. And then also very recently, we did a report together with the German AI Association in order to look how privacy laws are evolving all over the world. And what we saw there is actually that there are increasing steps for harmonization globally. So what we've seen in the US, for example, is that in California, there has been a privacy law being introduced, the California Consumer Privacy Act, which takes a lot of the principles also from GDPR. With Japan, there has already been a decision by the European Union that there is an adequacy decision for data transfers. And we also seen that for countries like South Korea and Brazil, that actually data privacy is strengthening. So I think, as you said in your introduction, for looking at image data and the AI-based solution that are being developed in, for example, autonomous driving or intelligent retail, it's a global topic, and privacy is relevant also in the US.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was also saying in an introduction that we have great talent in Europe, but you are recruiting in the US, which is already a kind of a bridge in between. You were saying there is a lot of diversity in the US. So is your new tech person diverse?
So if you refer to...
is it a woman, for example?
No, unfortunately not. No, it's a white man. That's what I have to honestly say. But
it's okay.
We have a lot of diverse talent from Berlin also itself. So when it comes to the diversity of the tech people that we are recruiting, I think that's also something that we find a lot in Germany. But I mean, talking about diversity, hiring someone who's American also brings more diversity to our company.
Absolutely.
So I think that by default is also
absolutely. I mean, it is an insider question because Thomas and I had a long conversation about diversity in AI as we were in Paris, and that's why I'm saying. But I know you want more diversity in the team. I know that, and I've been seeing also Brighter AI really from 2 or 3 people growing up. So it's a pleasure to see you on this panel, I must say. Okay, so maybe, hold on, I still have a question for you, Thomas, because are you actually expanding in the US with opening offices or something like that?
So right now, like we are already a global company and we already work with American companies, also universities, but opening an office is something, so if we open an office anywhere in the world, then it would probably be the US. But right now, and I think this is also due to the like COVID crisis that is going on, that these decisions have to be taken very carefully. And I mean, right now we are 20 people and growing. So we just recently moved to a new office in Berlin. We can work on global projects already. So at this particular moment, it's not. It's unfortunately not a big topic for us, but I think in the future it will be, especially because when looking also at investments, as you mentioned, also always we saw from the presentations, there's a lot of interest in AI tech from the US. So I think that's also something to consider.
I would like to now be less dedicated in my questions and maybe ask all of you and see also who answers the fastest. No joke. I want also to see very quickly in the chat if we have any questions. Exactly. I see that Andy is saying, like, encouraging you also to write your question in the questions section to your right on the bottom. And then we will get back to it in the Q&A section. So please do that. So I go on because I have the privilege to go on with my questions. This is great. Maybe I would like to know on an international perspective. I mean, we in this panel, we want to speak also like how business and AI do actually converge. I wanted to ask what tools do you see in terms of economic development? What tools, measures could help you strengthens the trade relations you have and meet potential partners and clients when you are developing abroad? Would it be from New York to Berlin or from Berlin to New York? What are the general tools and measures you would love to see developed to support your development? Who would like to answer this first?
Yeah, I can give like 2 quick points. So I think one is also what Thomas mentioned is like just in general, I guess, more exchange of people moving from New York to Berlin and vice versa. So I think the more people who live in Berlin have lived in New York before and vice versa, the more like natural exchange and just network builds up. And I think the second one is to create like physical hubs also for the topic of AI. And that's actually something we are also pushing now in Berlin. I'm sure there's also some initiatives in the New York, but like we're building a campus for around 450 people where basically different companies come together. And I think that is interesting to collaborate on that campus, but it's also an interesting first kind of starting point when you move into a new city or continent, right? Like you're moving to Berlin and you want to do something with AI, like where do you go right now? And like there's the universities and there's some government authorities pushing like a Berlin partner pushing like development, and there are associations and there are startups all over the city. But I think like also just like 1 or maybe 2, 3 physical hubs where, okay, in the first months when I come to Berlin, I should like at least drop by there once and see who is hanging out there. I think that would be super valuable just as a first step. And then obviously you can do more following out afterwards.
Yeah, we saw in both presentation of Karen and Charlotte that which initiatives there are and which are the platforms you can visit and the websites, like summing everything up of what is actually available in the town, which is very helpful indeed. Thomas, Parag, anything else to add on this? Well, where do you see the most possible support in development? Thomas, please.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I can fully support both things that Rasmus mentioned earlier because I talked about hiring and recruiting, bureaucracy and making this exchange of people easier is definitely one of the areas that can help us. And the second thing is also very interesting. And AC, I think because you mentioned Paris, it was very interesting for us to see that when we were in the Paris AI ecosystem, that they have this Station F, and like they have a very local, like central place for AI companies, but also investors and tech companies. And I mean, Berlin, for example, is a great city, and also as Charlotte introduced, there are many different centers, and that's also something that makes Berlin very interesting to live in. But like there's not this one central place where you can meet anyone and find anyone. So that's a very interesting point from Rasmus.
Yeah, we saw also that based on what Karen told us, I mean, I know in New York, the R Lab and the VR AR initiatives very well because we had a trade mission there before. And I'm very impatient to see also the center in New York, especially they call it responsible AI. I'm not going to go too much into responsibility and ethics right now because we're onto the business, but I will maybe a little later. Parag, you wanted to add something on this?
No, just to add what Rasmus and Thomas already said, I think what is important to add in that mix now, especially with the new normal, and is just increasing the digital infrastructure along with the physical infrastructure. So having more conferences, even if it's virtual, because people, I think this is going to be more and more the norm, and it's more cost effective. It's more easier to kind of have more often virtual exchange along with physical exchange. I think moving in that direction would definitely help the cooperation aspect. But ultimately, it boils down to, how can New York and Berlin shake hands in terms of providing access to capital and access to talent, and facilitating that, exchanges and making that more streamlined, more efficient, more attractive, quite frankly, right? So that would be.
Absolutely. So, Parag, that's interesting because you say the new normal quite often. So my question to all of you is AI also part of the new normal? That's the first question. And the second question, where do you see the impact of AI development in your respective ecosystem, in your own business or industries or work yourself? Being AI professionals, where do you see it coming up? So is it part of the new normal? And where do you see the impact in the industry? Who would like to take the question first?
I can go. So because I've thrown the new normal a few times, I definitely believe that we're not going to go back to business as usual. I think this is the first global pandemic for any living being experiencing it, and I think it will change us profoundly in terms of how we interact, how we think about the future, and how we build our resilience as a human race, so as to speak. So there is going to be a new normal, and a majority of that new normal will be driven by our coexistence with technology, right? And then when you talk about technology and the future of where technology is headed, I think AI is a big component of that, and especially this is the decade of AI, and it's only given it the boost, and because there's real world problems to be solved. So I think, yes, there's going to be a new normal, and I subscribe to that. The second part of that, in our ecosystem, I mean, we have 3 lines of businesses, right? So our services line of business, we engage heavily in healthcare space, we engage heavily in the high-tech space, and then and other verticals as well. We teach AI, and then we also, now we are going to heavily focus on developing the ecosystem around the education space in AI, which we've already started the journey, and we really want to make a thought leadership impact in the education area. Ultimately, what it all culminates to is our mission is to democratize AI. What we believe in is if AI is supposed to be this impactful revolution, and the digital divide that can happen would be very, very big in terms of trying to get that wall down, right? So our vision is to democratize AI, bring AI access and its technology and its ability across the globe. We've trained over 200 AI ML engineers that are based across all of our 4 offices across different countries, and we are striving to continue to expand that footprint. And I think that's the way we're going to impact the ecosystem around in AI. Build the talent, disseminate the information, and then bring real world application to impact change. for the
Yeah, maybe
Thank you, Parag. Rasmus, yes, please.
Yeah, maybe to add to this, I think like for a lot of the AI first businesses, they haven't been that largely affected as compared to some other startups. So I think you can see that, like, as also Parag said, like many machine learning first companies are solving real problems that are still real problems when there's COVID. And so I think if you compare that maybe to some startups in the travel space or, you know, some of these other industries, I think, you know, business is continuing and there's even more demand for some areas like healthcare and education, as Parag said. So I think there's even some areas which have been, you know, boosted attention. And then in terms of, I guess, areas that are interesting looking forward, also two things. So I think one is natural language processing in general. So we've been doing more in computer vision so far, but now also are starting first companies in the space of natural language processing, where I think just research has done great progress in the last 1 or 2 years. And so I think that will open up a few new basket of like interesting applications which need to be built, and where there's a lot around, you know, actually building then a real company solving a real problem. And then I think the other one is also similar to Parag's point, is anything that drives, and also I guess what Thomas is driving, anything that drives wider adoption of AI. So any tools, solutions that enable people across the globe, enable people in every single organization to use AI for their use case, to make it simpler for them to learn about AI and to basically help them build applications more quickly. And so I think, because like a lot of the SMEs and like smaller businesses have also now finally noticed that AI is not just, you know, buzzwords you put on the slide, but it actually can create real ROI. And so then it's about, okay, if it's like a real, you know, business case to invest in AI, then let's get it started. But that needs tools, because not everybody should build everything from scratch. And so similar to data privacy, I guess what Thomas and the guys are building, like not everybody should solve this problem from scratch. Rather, you should use brighter AI and then, you know, have best in class solution, and then focus on your specific problem, but use brighter for the privacy part. And so I think these kind of tools and solution will just, you know, generally rise in the next couple of years. And so we are also excited to be part of that.
You're talking about real problems, solving real problem. If we have a look on the social impact, joint responsibility, economic crisis, how can a collaboration on AI can help with this, especially between Berlin and New York? I'm thinking, for example, a lot is said about Europe wanting to be best in class for, you know, like ethics on AI, and whereas we don't have this in China, and the states are differently oriented, and etc. So do you think that a collaboration, a transatlantic collaboration between Europe, let's leave Berlin and New York for now, but between Europe and the US could actually get better results in terms of ethics and in terms of social impact? What do you think?
Yeah, so definitely, I think there's also no other way. Like, there's no alternative to having also a global perspective to these problems. Because as I mentioned earlier, if you develop a self-driving car, you probably want to do that for an international market. Or if you build like a system, a product like the iPhone or anything, is like it's a global product that is for many different markets. So also, when we look at solving these issues like ethics, like that we have in ethics, for example, or data privacy, when we're looking at facial recognition systems, I mean, there are always some boundaries when it comes to legal aspects. But I think in order to really solve these problems, of course, there needs to be also global collaboration and also clear standpoints on how do we want to develop these things.
Okay, well, thank you. That was already a very good insight. You want to add anything, Parag, Rasmus, on that one? I would like to see also if we have questions. We have one question, but before I go to the question, Parag, Rasmus, would you like to add something on this, or shall I move to the next question?
Yeah, just a little bit. I mean, I second what Thomas has said in terms of like, it's really important to work on the privacy issues, and generally, you know, Germany is quite the leader in that area, right? And why? Because when we go around, bringing the benefits of AI, still there is a little bit of fine line there, right? Because, you know, it can quickly go from, oh, AI is good for us, to AI is going to take over the world and everything is, you know, doomed, right? So I think the more we build ethics to it, the more we build safeguards, I think it's going to create trust, and then we're going to collectively be able to get the common benefit out of it versus the negative force that could pull the whole initiative in different directions. So I really second the need for leadership in terms of setting global standards around AI development in this application.
Thank you. So I turn to the question of the audience. It is a question for Rasmus and Thomas. Is the European Union or German government supporting AI initiatives enough for you in comparison to the US or China? And what can be the consequences for Europe and Germany if not?
Yeah, I can quickly maybe give a first answer to this. So I think, you can always support more, and I don't want to complain about more money. I think right now, the German government has committed money, and it's a few billion, so it's definitely a good starting point. I think right now there's a challenge in efficiently allocating this, and also especially in the transfer to real world applications. There's a lot of money now there, and a lot of that is running into existing supporting and funding structures. And I think just because that has been the way the money was allocated the last 2 decades, and I think they need to be a bit more creative and see, now it's 2020, what can we do also in terms of new initiatives, how we can allocate money, because a lot of the money, I guess, is in quite bureaucratic processes, and also some of the inverse, maybe to some of the US models like the DARPA, and it's very it's a very long process in the beginning to get the money in terms of bureaucracy, in terms of requirements to apply for some of the grants. But then once you get them, there's literally little checking after. And I would love this to be turned around. So rather, be a bit more pragmatic when you give money, but then check more rigorously on the go if certain milestones have been fulfilled. So yeah, and I think we need to. Obviously we need to put more money in it, and also we need to make sure it's put efficiently to work, because otherwise we'll have a problem in Europe, and not just because we are not building the next AI companies that can become large and have an economic impact, but also because that will heavily impact our existing industries. Talk automotive in Germany, right? I think if Tesla is now even opening a factory in Berlin, so there are other people who are working very hard and moving very quickly forward. And if we are not catching up in the next couple of years, I think we will have quite big problems here.
You saw the smiley laughing and coming on your comments. That's really fun. Thomas, would you like to add something on this?
Yeah, so also what I can say is that especially at the early stages, I feel that there's a lot of support when it comes to funding. There are also lots of research initiatives. So we were mentioning earlier that there are good universities in Europe, there's good talent. And what I feel also is that we get lots of requests from the industry and from research organizations to join their funded research projects, which is great. I think where funding becomes a problem from all I know about the ecosystem is that this becomes more difficult at a later stage. Also, the amounts that are poured into these AI ecosystems are different. For example, what I read about New York was that there's the cybersecurity hub now, where I think $100 million was invested only into cybersecurity. So the amounts are still very different when comparing also at later stages or funding in general. But from the support that companies receive when starting and when scaling, I think this is quite good also in Berlin from all I know.
Cool. I would like to finish, maybe to go beyond government support and etc. that we were also discussing previously. And I read the question also from the question round, sacrifice for complex. What are the 3 easiest ways, non-government ways, that can support global AI connections? Because working through government seems to be difficult at this time. Who would like to take this one? Non-governmental ways to enhance and support global AI connections. Anyone? Well, we had 1 vote for that question.
I think just to kind of add on what Rasmus mentioned earlier is, how can we think about partnerships, right? for example, when we build our tool, we're doing solutioning for our AI work in our services. Maybe we can work with Bright AI on some of their patent technology on privacy, and then Bright AI can work with us in terms of scaling some of the talent needs if they have one, right? Working with Rasmus and his company, and I think building these strategic partnerships across the globe where we exchange knowledge, talent, and then make it a win-win situation. To collectively grow and democratize AI and the access of AI, far between just the centers and just the areas that get the funding, because this is too important of a technology and a revolution that needs to be across every corner of the world if we really want to collectively get the benefit of it. Mm-hmm. So partnerships, I would say strategic partnerships.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely, and you know what you're talking about with your presence in 4 different parts of the globe, and now UK coming up, as you were saying. Why didn't you come to Berlin? Sorry, I have to ask that question now.
Well, we didn't know Charlotte before this. Now I can reach out to Charlotte directly. Thanks.
Damn. Okay. Good.
Things are really good in terms of having the exchange and really festering the ideas forward. So.
Yeah. Well, that's wonderful. I think we're running out of time, unfortunately. And unfortunately, I cannot take the questions that we have here. Otherwise, we're going to really completely run out of time. So I would like maybe to give you a final short round, maybe including a little bit the questions I see coming up now. I see a question about the cost disparity in resources between the EU and North America. I see something about the complexity of AI and transparency of intelligence machine. We know that transparency is that what gives actually trust. But anyway, what I would like to finish with maybe for the last round is to say, how do you see maybe these, or differently, what would be the next step, the very next concrete step you would like to do to bridge the disparities we can see maybe between the States and Germany, and Europe at least, or Germany and the States and maybe Berlin and New York? What would be the very next step you would do to say, okay, now we build a bridge and it is going to flow?
Yeah, I don't know, solve the whole Corona pandemic and allow us to travel to New York again. I think that would be the most obvious one. So just spend time there, meet people. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, okay.
I
know it's not AI related, but you're totally right. Anybody else to add something on this one? Otherwise, we can.
I think on our end, just again, reaching out to Karen and Charlotte, and
yes,
and, this team here, and making the connection, and then exploring further and seeing what strategic advantages they are in terms of exchanges to be built, partnerships to be built.
Thomas, do I leave you the last word of this panel?
Yeah, it's the same for me also. I learned a lot today. So I was also very thankful for the introduction about the New York City ecosystem, and especially setting up this Center for Ethics is something that I find very interesting. So I would also love to get in touch about this and what the single steps are that are then being taken inside this. So I would love to reach out again and talk about this. I think that's
wonderful. Yes, that's great. Reach out. That's fantastic. And I see even an idea from the audience, comment regular meetings like this to talk and create connections. I think also it's a very good way to mingle here today. And actually, it's not finished. It's actually starting now. It is like in real life, as I'm saying all the time. When the panels are, at the end, it is where it's actually starting with establishing the connection. And this is what we're going to do. And I think there was also a discussion if we might actually continue this discussion. So if you like this idea, make little whatever hearts or smiles or whatever, so that we know that yes, you are maybe interested to continue the discussion, and maybe also check if you are going into specific industries, or like explore more specific ways. Okay, I see they love it. Good. Okay, we will see. We will discuss here internally, and let me first. Thank you, my greatest panelists here. That was a very good round. And thank you. Stay with us, because now we are going to the next step to New York, also, and between Berlin and New York. It's not finished. Actually, there is also a very, very concrete next step, which is planned, because I will have the honor to lead a trade mission about artificial intelligence from Berlin to New York next year, planned in summer 21, early summer 21, I believe, if the pandemic allows. But I will let MediaNet Berlin-Brandenburg and Daria Gross, who is in charge of Berlin Digital, and who is working with me also on this project. Maybe Daria would like to tell us a little bit more on the trade mission before I introduce the tables for mingling. So I say bye to you three, guys, and Daria, the stage is yours this time. Tell us more.
Hi. Hello, everyone. Nice to see you all. Yes, I'm here, happy to hear tonight or during the day to announce our trade mission. My name is Daria from Berlin Digital. I'm a project manager there for MediaNet. MediaNet is an association for Berlin region. We provide our members with networking and also with a connection for international trade missions. And so we plan this for next summer, hopefully. And yes, we are not started yet because we are waiting for the proposal from the EBB here. But we are looking for companies in Berlin who are interested to take part, mainly decision makers out of the field of creative media, tech and communication. And yes, I will provide you with a link in the chat, and I would be also happy if you come to our table from Berlin Digital MediaNet, and you can ask me any questions there about our journey. And yes.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Yes, thank you, Daria. There will be more information on the MediaNet BB website, I guess, and Berlin Digital. If you Google it, there will be also more information on our own website, the Catalyst agency. There will be enough information, and we will keep you posted for sure. Let me move on to present you maybe the different table hosts, and I don't know, maybe I start with you, Christina, because it was you, the initiator of this fantastic format, together with Franziska Herhardt of Berlin Partner. So, Christina, I give you the word to present yourself and invite the people to your table.
Thank you, AC. Thank you, everyone, and especially for to the speakers for your insight. I'm the managing director of the Berlin Business Office, which opened almost exactly a year ago now. We're responsible for the USA. We're based in New York, which is nice for me because I'm pretty much a New Yorker these days. And we're the economic development office for Berlin, meaning that we offer cost-free location advisory services to Berlin companies that are interested in entering the US market. And then vice versa, we look to attract and then also support US companies to invest in Berlin. Thirdly, but also just as important, we promote Berlin's amazing startup scene. And the last time I read, I can't remember the source at the moment, but apparently there are about 20 startups. A startup starts in Berlin every 20 minutes or something like that. It's
oh, wow. I didn't even know that myself. I need to know the source. Great. Thank you very much, Christina.
Yeah. So I just wanted to also mention that we work in very close cooperation with Berlin Partner, who's our co-organizer here today. But we could not do this event without Berlin Partner, all our other partners, our speakers, and of course, the audience. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Christina. So let's go to Berlin Partner now and see Franziska Erhardt introduce her table. Franziska Erhardt is the area manager of the USA at Berlin Partner. Franziska, let you present your table.
Yeah, hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah, sorry that you can't see me. There is a problem with my internet connection. But hi, everyone. My name is Franziska Erhardt. I'm in charge for relations with the US at Berlin Partner. And you already got introduced to my dear colleague, Charlotte. So if you're interested in doing business in Berlin, please reach out to us. And we are also there for you to connect you with partners in the US. And if you would like to, if you are interested in becoming a part of this transatlantic bridge in AI, please get in touch with us. We plan to continue this exchange. Many thanks to the great speakers, to our amazing moderator and all the partners. It's great to work with you, and many thanks to all of you in the audience that are taking their time to join us today.
Thank you very much, Franziska, also for your feedback. I mean, I just enjoy myself here, so it's great. I mean, so let me move on with Medianet Berlin-Brandenburg, and we welcome Andrea Peters, chairwoman of the executive board and also in charge for Berlin Digital. I think she's there. Otherwise, we had also Daria with us. Oh, okay. Wonderful, Andrea.
Hey there. Hello from Berlin. Yeah, also from my side, a big thank you to you, AC, for putting that up and also bringing to MediaNet the idea to go to New York, hopefully in 2021. As mentioned already from Daria, MediaNet is a business association of the media and digital industry in Berlin. And we help also companies, let's say, after they have established their business here or set up an office here, to get connected. So I'm happy to meet all the Berliners and also the companies from New York at our table.
Wonderful, Andrea. This is great. I can really just confirm that Andrea is the networker in town. And if you are in the creative and innovative industries, she knows everyone. Let us move on again to Karen Bhatia of the New York City Economic Development Corporation, NYCEDC. She was here with us a bit earlier, and she will also be hosting a table. I just want to make sure she's here with us again. Yes, great, Karen. Just to say hello again. You have seen Karen before, but in case for the people who have been a little bit later, maybe you want to say what you want to discuss on your table specifically.
Sure. I'm part of the New York City Economic Development Corporation, and we try to support innovation in tech ecosystems. As was mentioned on the panel, we're behind the cybersecurity initiative. AC, as you mentioned earlier, the VR AR lab. We also work on our blockchain strategy as well as our strategy around responsible AI. So it's can it help answer any questions that you have on commercializing the AI. Sorry about that, AC.
You can commercialize me. It's okay.
Your AI companies. And we look forward to bringing you on board, AC, next year when you come on your trade mission. So looking forward to that as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Karen. Okay. And then last, actually not completely last, but definitely not least, Andy Saldana, the Executive Director at the New York Tech Alliance. Andy, you're wonderful. First, from me, thank you to have set all the tech. This is fantastic. I mean, okay, you are the New York Tech Alliance, so you can do that, right?
Well, thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be a part of this event. Thank you to all the participants and to you, AC, for being such a wonderful moderator. It's been such a great journey working with you. My name is Andy Saldana. I'm the Executive Director of New York Tech Alliance, and we're a nonprofit here in New York City working to connect the tech ecosystem to provide an equitable, accessible, and inclusive tech industry for all. So we hope that you've enjoyed this event. We run a number of events just like this, including the one that we're most known for, the New York Tech Meetup. and we run a meetup group that's over 60,000 members large. So we're always excited about new technologies, always excited by the tech industry, and fostering these connections to have these conversations and bridge as many of these communities together as possible. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And actually, I just saw that we have also a table ourselves. So this is wonderful. So for people interested also in the trade mission or in Berlin, a creative, innovative ecosystem, in really like anything which is really exciting at the crossing of tech and creative content, we are certainly good at that. And I completely forgot, we have also a webcast tomorrow about AI. Not that I really want to promote like crazy here, but if you have a look at Catalysts.agency, maybe if Anna is there, maybe you just put the link in the chat. We have Caroline Sanders, and she will talk also about AI ethics, definitely, and the impact of design on AI to make it transparent. So it's a different conversation, but it can be interesting for some of you. So just in case I'm throwing this. And then I'm going to leave that stage and say thank you to everybody, to the people who have been asking questions, for inviting me, for being there with you. I really enjoyed it. Speakers, thank you. Great presentations. And well, I hope to see you soon here virtually, or maybe physically in a trade mission from Berlin to New York. Have a great evening, good mingling on the tables, and see you soon in the lounge. Andy, please beam me to the lounge back. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.